change happens because of desperation.
Yeah.
Right. We only move when there's enough heat to make us move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I think we're at that point with a lot of dealerships in our industry right now.
We have Steve Dodds here. Steve Dodds, the one and only, the famous F&I trainer. I'll say this to Danny as if he doesn't know.
Tell me.
Yeah, as new information. Steve and I have worked together now for 10 years,
10
almost 10.
years,
Oh yeah, well, you started a
figured
little
it
before
out.
me at Garage Composites. We have both been trainers there the whole time. Steve is the F&I guru, F&I in sales. I guess you'd say both of those, right?
Yeah.
You're
I mean,
known for
my
your F&I.
specialty is really F&I, but
Yep.
you know, you end up doing a little bit of sales training with
Yeah, of course.
F&I because that's where it all starts. you know?
Yeah, exactly. So I asked Steve to come here and basically not only share what he's seen in the industry, what's going on, what things are changing and moving and getting better and different, but primarily I wanted you to come out here because I know that Steve is as creative, if not more so, than we are, as far as what we think that the dealership of the future should be and how do we get there and what does it look like. And so when we were talking a couple weeks ago, I had asked him basically like, okay, so if we just started over again, what would F&I look like? Like we're training based on what we see and how it works. And so what could we do differently? And he had all sorts of fun ideas. He was like, okay, well, come to New Orleans. We're going to hang out, spend some time together and kick around some ideas. And that's what we did yesterday.
Yep.
So, yeah, tell us more about kind of what's going on. What are you seeing in the world of F&I across dealerships, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Well, the biggest change, and I think everybody that's in the industry knows this, but from a consultant standpoint, sometimes it's hard to see it. All of the deals are starting online now. All of the deals are starting with some sort of online interaction, some request for information over the phone or through email or through text. People just aren't walking through the door.
Yeah.
You know, so when we talk about a process, a sales process, so much of it relies on, or as I should say, taught on, when the customer walks through the door, what do you do?
Yeah.
And we really have to flip that around and look at not only the experience of that, but the technology that goes with that, the everything, because we're bound by that technology and limited as to what we can do.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the tools to really sell to that customer effectively without the tools that we need. So it's just, that's the thing that I see that's changed.
Yeah. The mantra that Danny and I kind of live by is this idea that dealership operations are basically dictated by the tools that we have, the thing that we have at our disposal to execute this business.
Right.
And that tool, those tools, Lightspeed or, whatever software we're running our operations on, that dictates the process that happens. That dictates the experience the customer ends up getting.
Yeah, I see it as like if we can identify all of the processes and streamline whatever we want, and in our mind, theoretically, it's like a interstate from point A to point B. Like with the tools that we currently have, the dealership's forced to take back roads to get there. And you have to make so many turns, so many workarounds that a lot of times the most streamlined process in our head becomes less streamlined because of all of the workarounds.
Yeah. And it's not just
tools.
It's not just the streamlined process in our heads. It's what the customer wants to have happen.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's what yes.
The experience
that's
that they're
exactly
looking
what I mean. All we're trying to do is give the customer the same experience that they have in every other part of their life.
Yeah.
Every other transaction that they make.
Yeah.
We want our industry to be able to provide that experience.
I feel like every dealer knows that and wants that as well.
Right.
There's never been a store that I went into that was like, what doesn't matter to me is how the customer feels. Like that's never been said. So I think we're all very aware of it. We're all trying our best with the tools we have to do the thing, but it doesn't feel like the tools there exist. So like, what does dramatically rethinking it? Because if there's ever a time to rethink it, now's probably the time to rethink it. Like not only is it a time when, the industry's kind of struggling. We got a bunch of weird stuff happening with tariffs. We're coming off that high of COVID still. We've got lots of inventory. Like stores are still struggling right now. And we're entering into winter when it's already really hard.
But
Right.
is it any different?
I mean, it's not.
I don't think it's
not
I think it's
dramatically
been this way
different.
for the past 50 years, taking out COVID.
Yeah, if you don't consider COVID,
like,
because
it's always in this state like chaos and volatility.
that does feel. I mean, think back on my last experience inside, like running the dealership, was in 2019. From 2002 to 2019. And I remember Danny and I worked together. I don't know if I told you that Danny was the parts manager here before he opened up his own dealership.
Excellent.
Back when I was a wee boy,
a wee child, and we would just
totally drinking age in New Orleans.
yeah, we drank too much. That's what we did. Not at work.
It was constructive drink.
It was constructive drinking. We would spend all this time talking about, God, this is so hard to do the job. What if we had this other opportunities? We did other things. Anyway, I bring all that up because, when we sold the dealership in 2019, a lot of that decision came down to like, it's incredibly hard. It's literally killing me and my family. We are struggling through this. At that time, I'm starting to like really pay attention to Garage Composites numbers. So I'm seeing national averages.
What year is this?
This was in 2019 is when I sold.
19.
So we started the sale process in 2018.
Okay.
So I'm watching national averages and I'm going, man, the net profit of the average store is dropping consistently. Every year it goes down and down and down and down. And I was like, guys, I think this is the time. I think we should probably let's get out. And so we got out because it felt chaotic. It felt overwhelming. It felt like, yeah. And then we got out, December of 2019, March of 2020, and COVID happens. And of course, for a blip, I was like, oh man, thank God we dodged that one. And then, of course, right after that, it was like, oh, the greatest time ever to be in the industry. We were not there for it. But all that to be said, we come back July, so not even, 5 months ago at this point, and it feels very similar. I mean, the chaos feels very similar. But you're very right that like the expectations have dramatically evolved from what the customer expects of us and how we can deliver.
Well, COVID taught us to use things like web meetings and like there's no way
Connect,
I just
Podium,
Yeah.
texting services.
Yeah, texting was a
They're
big
all
one.
there.
Video stuff is a big one. Yeah.
We just celebrated my mom's 80th birthday.
Mhm.
Right? And there's no way
Congrats,
my
Mom.
almost 80-year-old mom at the time would have gotten on a web meeting. She is the one now that drives the, hey, can we meet for Thanksgiving and everybody get together on the web? And it's
Really?
like, yeah, so it's
Yeah.
if she's changed that, look at how many other people have changed their expectation of how we communicate, right? So the technology's come along, which some of that stuff you mentioned.
Yeah, like
But
out of necessity.
our dealerships haven't evolved with that though.
Yeah.
And
It's like they got the texting, they got some of those tools
yeah,
out of sheer necessity.
Mhm.
right,
Like we shouldn't need another pandemic
right.
to like make these advances. you know?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't the pandemic that made the advances in our industry necessarily. It was just, but the advances as a society of making it easier to communicate digitally and that kind of stuff. That's a big step. And so I think the other piece, it goes right hand in hand with that, is like, okay, why is now the time that we should be building a dealership lab, which is what's happening down there? Why is this the time to have people like you come in and say, okay, you've looked at hundreds of stores across the country. There's some idea in the back of your head that you've been kicking around that nobody's done yet, or you try to get stores to do and they don't do it. And I see that all the time. I go into a store, I'm like, hey, okay, dude, you need support staff, you need this, we need to change the pay plan this way, we need to do this. And they do like one half of one of those things, right? And I'm like, God, if you did them all, I really think this would change dramatically. Or if we had this tool, I think that the experience would just skyrocket. But it's hard to convince a store that's struggling to do something different. But then again, if you're a struggling store and you don't do anything different, aren't you just slowly going out of business?
Well, change happens because of desperation.
Yeah.
Right? We only move when there's enough heat to make us move.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we're at that point with a lot of dealerships in our industry right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're right on that cusp. It's not that there aren't customers out there. There are absolutely enough customers out there, and there's enough inventory out there
Oh, there's definitely
for
inventory.
all of us to be successful.
Yeah.
But we are not engaging the customer the way they want to be engaged, so they go and buy something else that fits this hole that they have.
Yeah.
This experience that they want.
Yeah. It's not necessarily, it has to be a motorcycle shaped
Right.
hole. It's just an experience shaped hole, like whatever that is. And
Right.
the experiences suck when you go into a motorcycle shop. They'll just go buy something else.
Yeah, I'll pick up golf.
Yeah,
go-
exactly.
Go play pickleball.
I'll go overlanding. You know,
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
go buy a truck and
exactly.
build it out like we've seen all, over the last few years.
Yeah.
People are going out. It's the same experience, really, as motorcycling. It's adventure.
And it's the same expendable income.
Right.
Yeah, that's
So-
I've said it before, probably on this, but we're not competing against the dealer down the street. We're competing against different industries.
Mm-hmm. So how do we
And-
get to
yeah.
that? And so, we've probably established this already in the podcast at some point, but I think I may have told you this last night, but we had a couple too many drinks at one point. So, when Danny and I worked together, however many years ago, 15,
Yeah, something like that.
15 years ago or something like that. Every night we'd talk about what the industry needs to be able to move forward and how we would need to build it, and what are the tools that exist, what process could exist because of the tool, what experience could we deliver because of the processes and the tools. Like that would every night. It was like all we thought about and all we talked about. We would be in some really seedy, interesting places, and we would still be talking about that. Anyway, so fast forward 10 years. He's got his own dealership. I have sold the dealership. I'm consulting. Danny gives me a call and goes, "Hey, man, I need some advice. I think you actually tell the real story. I made something up. What is it you called me?
My version was I just had my first son, and I don't know, he was a few months old, and it was again like this chaotic state that I was in. This had never been better. Like we were busting at the seams, but it was still just this quality of life was just terrible. And so I called Max, and we had been talking about starting something, and I was just, and what should I do? Like, do I open more of these things? Do I expand? Do I pick up, more lines? What do I do? And my thought, what I remember, because Max was doing crafts at home for Halloween and building sculptures for whatever. I was like, God,
Was
I'm sitting
crafting.
here about to, have a heart attack and a meltdown, and Max, la-di-da-di-da. He had sold his dealership a couple years prior. And I remember you saying, yeah, dude, sell it. Get rid of it. You'll be so much happier.
Yeah.
Which might not have been the real story, but it's what I did.
Well,
What's yours? What's
I
your
think,
version?
that I believe that's probably what I said. In my recollection of this, I was like way more profound. And I was like, look, you've already got one kid. You've got a second kid on the way. Do you want to have another business, which is essentially yet another kid to pull you away from the two kids that were just born? Like, no, don't waste your time doing that. And that probably did, either I said it that way or it came across that way, because I was quite literally, my kids wanted our house to look like Coco for Halloween. And so I spent way too long shaping skeletons like into Coco figures and like heating them up and like making like carving foam to like.
So
Granted, I don't have that time anymore.
if
So
you don't know Max overcommits and Max, overdoes everything.
yes,
Everything.
That's true.
If it's going to be, if you're asked to do something, it's that times 10.
yeah. I mean, you're sitting in a podcast studio that we
Right.
just built,
Right.
because we were like, we should probably do a podcast. And I was like, okay, this is done.
Yeah.
So yes, I do overcommit,
But deliver.
but deliver. And we've done the things. And so anyway, so that happened, right? Danny asked me, what should you do? I say, sell it. And then the conversation turned into, let's do something together. And the something together became, okay, let's design the thing that we always talked about wanting to build. And so we held a meeting in New Orleans. We invited a bunch of manufacturers and suppliers. We had a great attendance of people show up. That was kind of crazy because all we said was, hey guys, we're going to hold a meeting in New Orleans about the future of dealerships. We don't have an agenda. It'll be 2 days long. You're just going to show up and we're going to talk. I can promise you we'll have good food. We'll have a good time. And, if you show up, that'd be great. And we had a great attendance. Manufacturers, suppliers, dealer groups all showed up. And the conversation was,
Yeah, it turned out being in New Orleans really works to our benefit.
it does work out pretty well. Yeah. So
Don't have to twist people's arms.
no, they're like, oh, an excuse? All right, sweet. I'm here. So we did that. They showed up and the conversation became, okay, what does the future industry need? Like if we need to retain customers because they're spending their money and experiences, how do we keep them coming here? And we went around and around and all the things. We map out customer experiences. We talk about where people are spending their money. We go through the whole thing. What's the life cycle of a customer look like? And finally, we end this thing and we go, okay, you know what the answer is? We need to do more research. And then we spent 4 more years doing this crazy amount of research, studying customers and trends and what they're doing. And we built this software. We spent our entire life savings building this software thinking that this was going to be the thing that's going to save the industry. And we bring it out to the stores, and the stores go, man, it's really tough right now. I don't think I'm going to try anything different than I did before. Or it's really tough right now. And that's too expensive. We're talking like a couple $100 a month, most of which is going to data expenses for Lightspeed. Almost all of it, like 90% of it, just paying Lightspeed for their ransom. And so all that happens, and then we run out of cash. So we pivot at the beginning of the year, and there's a reason for this whole thing. I'm coming all the way back. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. I mean, it sucks we wasted literally our entire life savings on this.
Hopefully not wasted.
Yeah, not wasted. It's a
Not
learning
wasted.
experience. But what happened at the beginning of the year is that suddenly there was this opportunity for us to use AI to create software on the fly. It's called vibe coding, which is a ridiculous name for it, but sick vibes. So what vibe coding allows us to do is it allows us to try to basically, we said, the software, the tools drive the process, which drives the experience. And we said, wait a second. We've now studied what makes valuable experiences. Let's put that at the top. And then let's identify the processes to make those experiences happen. And then below that, at the bottom, we can build the software to do the processes to give the experience. And so that opened up this whole new opportunity for us to say, holy shit. Now all we need is a store willing to let us do whatever the hell we want to and change people's job descriptions on the fly and change how people do their jobs. And we didn't think we'd find that, but turns out we found it in our own dealership. It needed the turnaround. It needed the opportunity to like make things better. And it not only were we able to save this store from bankruptcy because it was right on the edge, but it has now turned into this chance for us to say, okay, Steve, what do you think the F&I department needs? Like, what's the thing that nobody ever did that we can give a shot? And the little spoiler for everybody out there, Steve and I sat down at this table for, I don't know, a couple hours yesterday. And then we started describing the process and the tour and the ideas. And we were able to quickly create a working mock-up, like not just a working prototype of how this would work. And we could fine tune that thing, get it launched next week and just see what works. And that's the whole fun and exciting thing about this. We get to say, let's try it. And then we'll have you back on in a couple weeks and go, well, that didn't fucking work. Let's try something else. But that's the really cool part. So, God, that was way too much of me explaining that.
Just so everybody kind of understands, like we took some software that it took me, I don't know, I evolved over 10, 15 years, right?
Your menu. Yeah.
The menu,
Yep.
and just simple, but something that had evolved over time and was a good tool and people are using.
Mm-hmm.
And we literally recreated it in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like we had close enough to a working model that was superior to what I'd already created.
Yeah.
And followed the process that we train.
Yes.
So where other software fights that process, and the process is all about, like you said, customer experience, but also profitability.
Yep.
Right. And there are things that we can do with the customer that make the customer want to spend money with us.
Yeah.
And therefore we don't have to feel like salesmen. We can just provide them with what they want.
Give a great experience. And they spend the money.
Provide the value.
And if we have that tool or a tool that helps us do that instead of fights us doing that, that's like magic.
We were talking yesterday. There was a moment, for those of you listening, it's a moment where Steve kind of was going through the process with the team here, kind of explaining the sales process, F&I process, kind of like how things get handed off and what there is to do. And you broke it down very great as there's the processes we need to learn. There's the people executing on those processes. There's the practice. And then there's the tools, which drove me crazy that it was a T word after 3 P words, but whatever, that's my mental problems. But anyway, that made me realize, like, you are so right. The process, as a garage composites consultant, as Onyx, as doing what we're doing as well, like as the process, that is absolutely what we teach. When I show up to a service department as garage composites, and I teach the process from beginning to end. And then I make sure that people understand the process, how to execute the process. I give them all the tools to practice it. We practice it together. But the actual tools to execute the thing, we have no control over,
Right.
like at all.
They
So-
don't exist in a lot of cases.
They don't.
You have to, take a screwdriver and use it sideways to pry something. It's not designed to pry.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like,
It's like we go in and we train people about how you need to be able to give an experiences like this. You need to be able to wow them and send videos and make this. And like, yeah, technically you can do all those things. It's really hard to do all those things every day consistently, because the way you got to cobble all your tools together and use these, well, I got spreadsheets to manage this, I got this to manage this, I've got Connect, and then I've got this, and I've got a CRM that's different from my DMS. Like,
nothing
It's like
talks.
telling a tech to do a Desmo service with a toolkit from Walmart.
yeah, exactly.
With like a 50-piece toolkit.
And that's what,
It's just like,
it feels bad, because that's what I do. That's what we do as Garage
Yeah.
Composites. We come in, and not that we're doing this wrong on purpose. We're literally saying, this is exactly what the customer needs. We know it's going to work. And the stores who actually do it, and they work their ass off to pull the stuff off, they make tons of money, and they give great experiences. They have great retention and great loyalty in customers. But we know that, like, doing that, they had to build like their own stuff. Dude, National Powersports Distributors.
Yep.
You showed me that website yesterday. Listeners, go check out nationalpowersportsdistributors.com and click on any bike in their inventory and go through what they show to the customers. It is the checklist the technicians go through, the voltage that battery charges at. It is every single nick and scratch that could possibly be on it is like incredibly high def photographs. There's an entire, VIN history check on it. There's every repair order that got worked on. It's like, it is unbelievable. You know the way they do that? They had to build their own stuff.
exactly.
That's not Dealer Spike. That's not Pixel Motion. That's not any of the systems that we're using right now. But the OEMs push us to use those.
But see, so look, whenever I left your dealership, which was always the plan.
Yeah. No, it was on good
Stayed
terms.
a year later than I should have, because I met my then girlfriend, now wife.
You met
But
me. And happened to run into her. Yeah.
Is he your girlfriend's wife?
yeah. Maxine is what I go by in that time.
It is New Orleans.
It is.
So anyway, with my shop, I did it completely outside of the box. Whenever I worked here, I hated the DMS, I hated the tools, so I did my own thing. I got a POS, which was ironically also called Lightspeed, that could handle bicycle service shops, and that's what I ran off of. And I got these other tools, and I cobbled it all together. It gave an unbelievable customer experience. We were in business 10 years. We had 2 bad reviews. One of them was a guy that said that his tire didn't smell right. Around that. But the point was, we gave an unbelievable customer experience, but it was so people dependent, and it relied on me monitoring everything to make sure that every single person knew how to do these workarounds to make it work. And that job is extremely difficult to operate have consistent operations whenever you have all of these workarounds.
Yeah.
It's major behavior change.
So now what does it look like to be able to quite literally build a tool? We go through, like, here's the ideal process. Let's get the team together. We had the team, the sales team in here talking about, okay, what does an ideal process look like? Okay, how would we do it? Who's going to do what? How's information going to flow from one person to the next? Not just, well, you carry a piece of paper over here and then this thing. Like, it's like, how do we make sure that there's checks and balances, but those checks and balances aren't an employee. It's not a manager just whipping it into shape. It's like, how do we make the job easy to do well?
Right.
Not just easy to do, but easy to do well. And I think that is something that until this year was really hard to do. Because when we thought about this before, we thought, man, we gotta have API data. We have to pull the data from Lightspeed. We got to pull the data from DX1 or our CRMs. We have to pull all that together and then study and analyze it. Be able to then connect it with
which
other
is
things.
still going to be necessary.
It's going to be necessary. It's absolutely. I think the plan as we develop these things out is, yes, we will API integrate. The hurdle became the amount of investment that not just we had to make, but the DMSs. Like, the amount of investment that Lightspeed will need to make to change the fundamental ways that their processes work is so much. And then they invest all this time, all this money, all this energy, and it still isn't what actually helps run the stores. That's the problem. The Lightspeed scheduler is a phenomenal example of this. The guy who made the scheduler is the same guy who made the initial Lightspeed scheduler for service.
Okay.
Great guy, super. I mean, I've heard great things about him. I've never met him. He's incredibly intelligent. He realized that he's gotten enough requests for changes on the schedule that he was going to make a better one than he made before. He's going to take all his knowledge and all his experience, and we're going to make the most badass scheduler ever. And I truly believe that he built the thing that he thought was perfect. But when you put that thing in practice in a dealership, it doesn't work. It
comes down to behavior
creates
change.
too many. It creates behavior change. It's more steps. It's not making the job simpler. It's making it more complex. But it has better data. It would have better scheduling capabilities. But like it made it more complex. So what's the solution? Well, the solution should have been you go embed yourself in a store for 6 months and you figure out what it's really like. You go act as a service advisor. You sit at that desk. You got to know what it's like to be in that desk, how overwhelming it can be, how much of a pain in the ass it is, how like the demands of the customers. And then you got to design from that point forward. And then you got to make a version that you know isn't going to be right. And you go, okay, let's try it. And then you beat it up, and you go, okay, well, shit, that didn't work. Okay, we're going to tweak it a little bit. And that was prohibitively expensive to do up until very recently. And that's what makes this so exciting right now, is we get to be like, oh, we really can start over. We can like totally start over with new, fresh ideas. And like, what's that thing that you laid in bed and said, wait a second, what if you did this thing? And like, now it doesn't have to just be this idea. It can actually be a real thing. So that's my soapbox. Thanks for attending my
Thanks
TED
for
Talk.
tuning in.
Done.
Yeah. So let's bring it back to like you work with a lot of stores that I don't even want to just say like need help, right? That's a big one. But a store that not only recognizes they need help, but are willing to spend on training. And they're willing to spend the money to have you come out and work directly with their team. Well, those are some advanced stores.
And a lot of them are very successful in their own right. They just they know that they need to make the next step.
Yes.
And they're not sure what that step is, or they've seen other people make that step and they're like, hey, we want that, And so I come in and I help them do that. Right?
So what's a step recently that you feel like is something that's changed because of the market and what's happening and is making a difference in the stores that have adopted it, but you're like, this is the next thing. This is what we all need to start focusing on. What's that?
It sounds really simple, but it's cobbling together a couple pieces of technology and being able to, when the customer wants payment information over the phone, because they don't get on a web meeting to ask you for information. They ask you on the phone or text or email.
Yeah.
And doing any kind of product presentation over text, phone, or email really doesn't work.
Yeah.
So pushing the customer to, hey, you know what? Let's set up a time for you to get in front of your computer and I can share my menu with you, my whatever my presentation visual is, right? And I can present to you in the same way that I would if you were in my office.
Yeah.
And it is a very simple change, but it is a very difficult change to make finance managers make or sales managers make, because it's easier for me to go, oh, here's your payment.
Yeah.
Oh, and then now let me tell you about all the products you can get with it. And the customer goes, I'm good.
Yeah. Exactly.
So like that little, like combining your menu with a visual presentation that you can do over the web virtually.
So it's literally just have a Google Meet or a Zoom meeting
and
present
that
your
simple,
screen. Wow.
But it's not that simple when you're talking about behavioral change.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we've all gotten to the point where we just, customer says over the phone or over email, what's the price? What's the payment? What is my rate and term? Because I just got approved, and you end up giving it to them because you don't want to lose them.
Yeah.
Right. And we're out of control when we're out of the store. We think.
Yeah.
But we don't have to be.
Yeah.
If we explain to the customer why it's better for them to do what we want them to do, they'll want to do it. And it is a better experience when I can talk to you face to face and I can make a friend and I can smile and you smile back. And, there's magic in that interaction where we see each other and the customer feels better about that interaction now.
Yep.
And that's better for the business and that's better for the customer.
So is that something that, you saw when you went back into store? Because, I mentioned that Danny and I have now embedded ourselves back in a store again. We've seen the adjustments and the changes that have happened. We're living them right now. you went back into a store. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was interesting. The biggest we weren't able to get to that point.
Yeah.
When I was in the store
Why?
where we were doing virtual. Not every finance manager is real comfortable with technology. And
Yeah,
I
so it's
think
a behavior change thing still.
that's
Yeah.
one of the big things is that getting your staff comfortable. So having the right staff to be able to deal with the technology.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're kind of in that weird place where we don't have enough digital natives that are of the experience level that we need for that position, for the finance manager position. So
Yeah.
that's kind of, I think 10 years, 15 years down the road, it'll be easier to get that
I don't think we have that amount of time though.
I don't think so.
Based on some
But
of the numbers I'm seeing.
what we were talking about yesterday, if the technology was easier to use, it was intuitive, it was just baked into the job performance, and that would be a game changer.
Or if they're a part of it too. I mean, I think you said it yesterday, being able to have our team, the Moto Julia team up here and talk through these ideas and say, what do you think of this idea, sales manager? What do you think would work here? And those ideas, I mean, once you lay out why the experience is important, why the process is important, it makes sense. So to ask someone on your team, think outside the box. What can we do to make this happen? Those ideas that are coming up are not, they're ones that align with the vision that we ultimately have, that, we've been working toward and trying to do. But as soon as we then say, okay, cool, you want to do that? Let's do it. We're going to either create the tool. We start by building the forms and the paperwork and then prove that is the form and information that needs to happen before we make it into a tool. But when I hand that over, it's not like oh God, I got to do this thing that you told me to that I don't know why it's important. They were a decision maker in this. They want it to succeed just as much as I want it to succeed. And that's how we actually start seeing some of these things go into place.
Yeah.
So at least that's the hope,
Well, you asked me and I kind of dodged the question or gave you a different, I didn't really answer your question. I think the thing that I realized from going back in dealerships is that, and I'm going to say almost 100% of the deals now have an online interaction before the customer ever comes in the store. It is like, I know we look at the statistics and we know, 1.3 to 1.6 dealerships is all people are visiting before they buy, right? Where people used to visit 6 to 7 dealerships before they bought, so we know they really are picking you before they come in the door. But to see the statistics is one thing, to experience that day in, day out and see every single deal start online is different.
Yeah.
It really, we still think of when the customer walks in the door, we greet the customer. That's kind of how we talk, right?
They're going to physically be here, and then they're going to want to talk to me about themselves for a little bit.
And that's just not reality anymore, And I know at GC we do have a virtual sales process, and the psychology is exactly the same, right? We're trying to we're using the same tools to get them to engage with us, and ultimately that's where the video is helpful. Is if I can
still
get
make that
you on
happen.
video, whether it's a one-way video or it's two-way video, I can send you a video that has my face and you'll start to connect with me and feel like, there's that desire for me to buy from you,
Yeah.
It's just, you have to think totally differently about that initial part of the interaction and how we get the customer engaged with our dealership.
Yeah. I mean, people are buying cars on Carvana, right?
Right.
That wasn't an experience you could have before.
Right.
You couldn't buy a car that easily. And when that becomes the norm, then how do we make sure that customers can get that experience in other places as well? And so, what is,
I think you should clarify not the same overall experience as like a Carvana or CarMax, but
you're right.
perhaps the transactional experience, because I mean, we're by streamlining that part of the experience,
the painful part.
Yes.
The
then it
customer's
opens
painful part.
up room to give
the show,
experience that we should give,
That is very true.
that the customer wants to expect.
Yeah.
Does expect.
So when that customer's calling in or they're shopping online and they're trying to find prices and they're determining where they're going to buy stuff from, does price come up earlier than we expect it? Is that a conversation sooner than we really talk about?
I think that's just the first thing they ask because they don't know what else to ask. So I've been working in this industry way too long. I was doing finance when we still had to fax things. So just to give you an idea. So
Old person.
what's that?
You're an old person.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's okay.
So I mean, I remember training salespeople back in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest, things you had to work around is a new sales guy doesn't know what to ask, right? So you work with them a lot on open-ended questions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get to a point where the conversation stalls, the customer takes control and the customer asks, "What's the price?"
Yep.
Like that is an issue.
It's that
when they're
lull in
store.
the conversation when that comes up.
So now it's just that's the first question because you're not engaged with them. You're not having a conversation. They email you or they text you or any number of different ways they can contact you now through Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
And they go, "Hey, what's the price?" So
Well, then you clearly just reply with, "Well, tell me more about your family first."
right, yeah. Oh yeah, like a
Which
weirdo,
is,
right?
yeah, which is, I mean, totally reasonable. That's how every other experience in their life is, except for a hospital visit.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be like a hospital.
That's a good
It's
point.
like
As Tony
going and get your
says,
work done and you get home and you
The surprise bills at the end. Yeah.
As Tony always says, there are two things in this life that you'll negotiate. It's motorcycles and Mexican blankets.
Oh, there you go. Why?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
but yeah, you go ask, you ask somebody the price of a blanket, a Mexican blanket, when you're in Mexico, and
yeah,
it's going to be a different price for you
That's
versus
right.
me versus
Yep.
him.
Yeah. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
It's funny. Just recently, this store sells BMW, right? That's not recent. We've been doing that for a while. But when we came back, we had lost the BMW Owners Club. They didn't like us. They didn't want to do business with us. When I sold this place, we tried really hard to.
They told their members to not do business. With us.
Yeah. They had actually
Quite the hold.
at some point after we sold this place. At some point, they had to stop. They used to have in their monthly meetings, they would have a dealer talk where they would just talk about what's going on in local dealers. And by that, it wasn't like problems. It was meant to be like, what events are they doing? What promos are happening? Are they doing group rides? But it turned into so much of a bitch fest about this store that they decide
that segment out.
Yeah, they don't even that segment of the meeting disappeared. It was like, all right, we talk about the budget, which is always that's a really fun one, and then we go into our own rides and like skip right over what dealerships and what support is happening because it just became complaints about us. So I bring all that up not to say boo-hoo. But when we came back into the store, we were like, step one is we got to get the riding community back. And a huge piece of that is getting the BMW Owners Club to respect us and to come back in and give us another shot. And so, man, we worked so hard to try to get them to do that. We brought, the first meeting that we had with them, we brought the president and the treasurer to lunch, and we had this big, long conversation with them about what we're changing and what we're going to do, all these promises. We had them basically write out who they want as the general manager of the store. Like, okay, describe the person that needs to run this community. So that's literally what we're going to try and find and hire for. Like we wanted the BMW Club to be a part of what the dealership became in the future. And so we showed up to all their meetings and we would have these speeches and like whole thing, like really trying hard to say we changed. Anyway, the president of the club came back and gave us a chance. He bought a motorcycle from us. We screwed it up so bad, so incredibly bad. It was like one of those situations where every possible thing goes wrong over and over and over again. It was like, oh my God,
had that customer.
Holy shit. And it wasn't his fault at all. Oh my God, did we screw it up?
It's just that deal that goes south and goes south and goes south and you try and save it. And
my God, it was so embarrassing. It was like, it hurt to hear everything that we did wrong. And anyway, so we brought him we didn't know what to do. Me and the new GM, John, were like, man, this is literally, we were preparing for this, knowing that this is the most important sale we're going to have all year long. And we dropped the ball and everything. And so finally we were so just beat up and overwhelmed. We actually brought him up in here. So, the dealership's below us. So I said, come upstairs real quick in like a neutral, relaxing space. He sat right in where Danny's sitting right now. John was sitting there. And we start talking about the experience and what's going on. And so John and I start immediately putting like, okay, we're putting new checks in place that make sure this is going to happen, this happen. But it wasn't all that. There's a lot of great nuggets of information that came from that. But there was something that he said just in passing that was like kind of a light bulb moment for me. He said, guys are still buying from St. Louis. They're buying their motorcycles from a dealership. We're in Louisiana. They drive all in New Orleans. We drive all the way up to St. Louis to get their motorcycles, not just to buy them, to get them serviced. And he mentioned that a couple guys just recently went out there. Or no. Correction. He mentioned that he bought it here knowing that it would be cheaper if he bought it from St. Louis. He came here knowing it was more expensive. And I go, how do you know that? Like, I know that we lost our ass on that deal. We made him it was a demo. So it had demo credits from BMW already, but we've sweethearted that deal so much because we were like, we want you to love us. And he goes, I know it could have gotten cheaper there. And I asked him, like, how did you know that? He's like, oh, well, online, the price of that bike online is cheaper. There's this rebate in this one. It'd have been that much, like, a couple $1,000 less. And it's not about like, oh, some dealership undercutting me. It was about the fact that when he thought price, his thought was not, this is an older guy. His thought was not, okay, that's the starting point. I'm going to go talk to him and they're going to give me a better price. He never once, he is the guy that we always think, oh, they love negotiating. He never even considered negotiating. He just went to the website, saw the number and said, oh, that place is cheaper than this place. Not, I'm going to go into this fun little battle and I'm going to fight over the price. And then fortunately, they're going to give me such a good experience. I'm going to be okay with paying more. Like, that was in no way in his or the BMW Club's like psyche of why they buy from us. Now, I do think that we could make a far better experience here that would justify spending the extra money if we were selling the bikes more expensive. I have no doubt.
If you had them in the store.
If we had them in the store and if we had the experience that actually matched what we said we were going to give them.
Right.
Like if the experience is what they experience in their other industries that they work in, if the experience that when they go to a hotel and the experience they get there, when they go to, we went to a restaurant last night called 34. It's directly across the street from this dealership.
Great place.
Phenomenal
Highly
spot.
recommend.
Highly recommend. They just got a Michelin nod. They didn't get a star. They got a nod. But we went there. The experience was incredible. It wasn't cheap. But it was just, the experience was so awesome that we stayed there for hours just hanging out and talking. And the bartender came over. He's talking. The manager comes over. He's hanging out with us. Like, it was just this, like, I want to be there every night. I will be very broke if I do that. But like, it was such a great experience. And I'm willing to spend more money there because that experience was so great. That's what every dealership wants to be and needs to be and all that. So I guess that all of that is to say, if the deal's starting online, we know they're going to our website and looking at those units. And we know that the price is the first thing that they're seeing. That's the determining factor.
That are in our industry are not a great experience.
Oh, God, no.
I mean,
You don't like pop-ups and
there's not a one
flashing
that gives a good
banners
customer
and
experience.
Yep.
And they don't even sell you on customer experience. They sell you on you'll get more leads or whatever, right?
You're right. God, I didn't even
Not
think
a
about that.
customer
Yeah.
experience.
It is not about the user experience as you go through this, and it makes you want to buy. It makes you want to be a motorcyclist. It doesn't do that.
there is
It
an
looks exactly
example
the same as the other one.
Whenever David Mack was here. Triumph.
Yeah.
What's his role? GSM.
He is the regional sales director. I don't know.
Yeah.
David, if you're watching this, sorry, I don't know what you do. You're great, but
He told us about that. Remember that flagship Triumph store, I think somewhere in Georgia, and he was going on and on about what a cool place it was and great experience and spots. I went to look it up as soon as he said that, and we went to just the cookie cutter website that they have. You would never know it. I had to go into Google, try to find pictures that other people took, and found those pictures. And the place is unbelievable.
Yeah. Talk about an experience.
The website looks exactly like every other metric dealership.
Yeah.
And you have no clue that this place is a destination.
Yeah.
Like, I would go not even, I would go just to see it.
Yeah.
Knowing what we know about the customer experience and what the customer is going through to find us, that's the most important part of the whole experience.
It's our front door, right? I know we've said the digital front door. Yeah.
But it's that's the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
That's what drives them to want to do business with you.
Yep.
You know, by the time they get to your front door, it's just, pardon my language, but just, you got to just not fuck it up.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've said that
That's it.
so much. That's been my mantra about the
They picked
entire
you.
industry. This industry survives and thrives in spite of itself.
Mm-hmm.
There is no reason that motorcycles should exist anymore. There's no reason that anybody should buy them. Like, honestly, the things sell themselves.
Mhm.
All we have to do as a dealership is get the fuck out of the way.
Yep.
Don't screw it up.
Yep.
Just keep that experience that they see in their brain. If they buy this thing, my life is going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Do our best to not let that dip.
Yeah.
That's easier said than
Just
done.
maintain that that unrealistic expectation how
Yeah.
incredible it is to own a motorcycle.
Or just don't let it degrade too much.
yeah, exactly. Well, good. I think websites are clearly a big issue. We're not working on that yet.
Right.
We gotta.
I mean,
I want to get there. I'm hoping we find someone that's really doing it, really recognizing what it needs to look like and how it can interact more effectively. But yeah, we see these. You know, we've got one that this store runs off of, and it does some integrations, right? It pulls inventory from our DMS and puts it up there, and that's good. You know, that helps.
That's why we use it.
That's why we use it. Well, because the OEMs also subsidize part of it because we use it.
Yeah.
But they do that. There's lead generation that pushes. But it's like a crappy.
Does nothing
it's a,
for the customer
it's a
experience.
WordPress cookie cutter, like boring ass website. And there's some little widgets here and there that does that, but it's like 15 different pop-ups that are widgets. And
I
doing
hate
stuff.
widgets.
It's
And
just
most customers hate widgets.
yeah, and it's just like we're not like we got to start over on all of this stuff. We got to like actually change how we look at the site, not just say, oh well, dealer spec does it that way. So what if we do it like that, but with shinier looking photos? You know, like it's just the same thing.
Right.
So speaking of changing, you have changed a couple things in your process as of late,
Mhm.
right? Or you're trying out some new stuff and you're seeing some success with it. What is that, and how can dealers start doing it?
I forget what the hell I was going to say.
I think it was selling more cash penetration.
I know we talked about that.
Hire Steve. That's what I
Hire
was gonna tell you
Steve.
about.
Yeah. We're not going to give it away. No, so you had told me yesterday about this
Hopefully
concept.
you can edit that part.
Yeah. We have
Where I went,
nothing.
"Oh, God."
Nothing gets edited.
Raw, uncut.
Yeah, don't say raw uncut. We're going to get filtered to a whole nother weird podcast. No, so yes, I'm so glad you knew the button was there. That was the
Warren.
moment we needed. Yeah, we did. Oh, this one. So, all right. So, no, the question that I have, or the answer I was looking for you to tell me, was actually about your cash penetration. I don't think
Gotcha.
you went really into detail of.
I gotcha.
We talked yesterday of.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a. I'll give more context so you got time to remember this.
No,
I was
got-
showing our delve analysis, the star chart, and we have this concept of, hey, if we're trying to show what a great ownership experience looks like, how would you rank that? How would you grade that thing?
Ownership experience.
Onyx, yeah, nice plug. The ownership experience is better with stores that do this, this, and this. And so that this, and this, we look to other industries to try and figure out. One of them was looking at Michelin for the restaurant stuff, not for the tires, or diamond ratings in hotels. And you know what? You know how they are able to determine if a dealership's good is like, okay, there are things that they have particular rankings on. Did you do this thing or not? And I'm not suggesting that we have to have, hair dryers in every bathroom or like little stools for purses, like none of that stuff. What I'm saying is, okay, there are stores that are giving great experiences and they're doing so in these different ways. They're financially, they're healthy in this way. Their inventory is this way. Their sales penetration is this way. Their customer experience is this. And so we talk about customer lifetime value. And anyway, all of that stuff is to say, I was showing you those yesterday. And one of those metrics to judge a store on, we don't like to judge just by saying like, well, the best is this. What we look at is healthy in all of these areas is the best. Because if I tell you that the most important thing for you to focus on is getting your F&I penetration as high as it possibly can, and you go, all right, challenge accepted. You work your ass off on doing that, and then you let every other thing go. So we think of it as let's get all the metrics healthy and then work on improving the volume and the experience that way. So anyway, one of those numbers was finance or contract penetration
Right.
of major unit sales. How many of those had contracts in them? And I just had this blanket number of like, okay, well, I am under the belief that, I don't remember, the numbers weren't in front of me. You can look up the Onyx star chart for free at onyx.io, print it out, fill it in yourself. But in the F&I column, I think it was like 0.7 to 1.2 was 3 stars, like middle of the road,
Middle
right?
of the road, right?
And then I went all the way up to like a
It was
5-star was 2.5, right? 2.5 or
2.5,
greater. And you go, wow, I think 2.5 is like pretty average when you're looking at finance deals. In cash deals, that number is much lower. So that got us down this whole road of like, oh shit, I have not been measuring my cash deals versus finance deals in the penetration of contracts. I have been measuring how many of the contracts are finance versus cash. But can you go into that concept of how do you, or theoretically, how could you increase the amount of contracts sold to cash deals, not finance deals? And
Gotcha.
maybe why is it a problem first, and how do we move it?
So the issue is if we don't pay attention to that, the penetration of products to cash deals
Mhm.
is that they're so much harder to make money on. Anybody who's in the industry who's done F&I or is a sales manager knows, with a finance deal, you're trying to make as much as you can. With a cash deal, like you're just trying not to get a zero.
Yeah.
It's like playing offense and defense,
Yep.
right? So if we really focus on with the cash presentation, not using a typical finance menu where we're package selling,
Yeah.
but we really try and go through the presentation of each product and figure out what the objections are and then pick the best objection to try and overcome, we can get closer to that 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
And I've been specifically working with several dealers and dealer groups on just their cash penetration numbers.
Yeah.
And coming up with a process and really massaging that. And we've got a pretty good process where with just a little bit of effort and a little bit of a different process, a different menu, they can get pretty quickly to 0.75-ish,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
That's incredible.
Which means 3/4 of the time, that cash
A cash
customer
deal's
that is
buying an
usually
F&I
a
product.
zero, they're buying something. And I don't
Mhm.
really grade like what they're buying or how much money it is, or I just want it not to be a zero.
Yeah. Let's get
'Cause if
something on there. Yeah.
Anybody that's ever, sat down with their high schooler and, the high schooler, my oldest child was not turning her homework in,
Mhm.
getting zeros on homework, which you think, it's homework. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But when you just take those zeros and turn them into 50% or turn them into
Yeah.
something,
Yeah. Yeah.
that GPA jumps way up.
Yeah.
She went from a C to a B plus just with not
Just by
zeros in her
not getting
homework,
zeros.
right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what spurred the thought process and really got me thinking about it. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where we ended up with it. And so yes, finance deals are still important.
Yeah.
But if we're not looking at the cash deals,
Yeah. We're ignoring this
and
other opportunity. There's still a lot of cash deals.
Yeah, you just see it as a lost cause. Like
Right.
Cash deal, just
well,
Yeah.
forget it, move on to the next one.
I was a finance manager for 10 years, so I get it. It's easy to go,
That's
you know
cash
what?
deal. Yeah.
Move that one out of the way. I'm going to go for the
Yep.
big money. But it's not. Ultimately, at the end of the day, at the end of the year, when you look at your average is affected heavily by that zero.
Yeah. There was you showed me this
Mhm.
menu yesterday. And for me, that you were here, Danny, you had left already. But for me, it was there was an aha moment of not just like, we got to pay attention to this, because I agree. Like, yeah, if we want to move the needle, let's look at the thing that we're not paying attention to and move the needle there. It's going to make an impact. But it was hard to understand, okay, how do you do that other than say, try harder? Like that's not an answer. And so when I saw how you did it, that was like oh shit, makes sense. And so I'm going to try to describe it as good as possible. In the video, you'll see me move my fingers. That's not really going to help either. But there's the standard F&I menu, the 4 levels of F&I products, right?
Mhm.
Prestige all the way down to whatever you end up calling those
Packages.
categories. So yeah, those packages of, you got your PPM and your ESC and your tire and wheel and your gap and your all those things, right? That's every single one of them is your prestigious one, and you go all the way down with fewer and fewer items with your 4 choices normally.
Mhm.
You're doing 4
Usually,
choices.
yeah.
So that's what you try and sell in a finance deal. The big difference was you basically took those columns and rotated them and turned them into rows. I guess that could kind of help explain it. It was like, I am not trying to sell you a package with a bunch of different things in it anymore. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about a thing and explain the different terms. So like, I'm going to talk about priority maintenance and why it's important. Which one of these makes most sense to you? Does it make more sense to keep it for, this many months or this many months? It's this price at this many months. And so it's just like, oh, you're actually presenting the same stuff, but very, very, very differently than you would otherwise. And you're attempting to just close one of those products at different rates. And I guess maybe you can explain it better than me, but that was like we're actually going to do it different. We're not just going to do harder. We're not just going to try harder at the same thing it's failing. We're going to change the way we're doing it, and then we're going to see if it grows. And so you've done that in a handful of stores, and the difference in cash deals selling on different terms of individual products. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, I think without a visual, that's probably the easiest way to say it.
Okay.
Bear with me because I'm not a F&I specialist. I mean, can that approach be applied to finance deals?
No, it's hard to. The problem is it's hard to sell a lot of products that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of conversation and a lot of decisions.
Because you're going line by line.
Line by line. It's similar to step selling for anybody who's familiar with like old school F&I. They step sold everything.
We just go through one product
They'd go through a product at a time, and they'd get a yes or no on each.
It'd be like trying to sell each line item of an annual service.
Correct.
Each
similar.
And you need
each ingredient on a burger
to buy all of it in that example.
Right.
But if you know that they're not necessarily going to buy all of it, your better opportunity is to do a modified step sell. And this is part of the advantage that you get by doing this presentation is that we can go through each product and we either get them to say yes to it the first time around, which would be great, but most of the time they give you an objection.
Yeah.
But if you can present your service contract and get that objection, and then you get the maintenance and get that objection, and then you get the tire and wheel and get that objection, and then the battery, and they tell you that objection. Now I have 4 objections to 4 different products, and I know as a finance manager, which one do I have the best odds of overcoming? Based on my prior experience, right? It's kind of like playing poker.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But I get to see your cards first.
Yeah.
Right? So it's absolutely presenting them first, offering them different product options, not giving them a yes/no option, giving them an A/B option.
Yeah.
So that they're more likely to pick one, and then getting the objections. And it just, the whole process is very different, but it all plays into the psychology of, like it's chess.
Yeah.
It's a mental game of chess.
Yesterday when you were going through the like F&I process in F&I 2, like the steps that we would go through, and you'd mentioned, we're going to have a gift. It was gift. It was, what was the next one? Gift was events. Then we went into the menu presentation. And then you went into, if they say no to that stuff, we're taking the menu off the table.
Right.
We're not showing menu anymore. Now we're going to start doing paperwork. God, I loved what you talked about with paperwork when you were like, ask them who they're going to show who they're most excited to show this motorcycle to. It was like, oh man, if you're going to get people stoked again, like they get to
just while the boring stuff's
happening, while they're doing the paperwork, talk about the exciting stuff, get them engaged. And then in that you're also like dropping in some other swings back at those F&I products, and also see it like what you said with cash conversion. Once the menu's off the table, does it make sense to do that? Maybe not presentation, but speak to it in that same way, like that step sales. So like, hey, I don't know if I mentioned we talked about priority maintenance, but priority maintenance actually comes in different terms as well. So we could get like the full 60 months of this or however long it ends up being. But we could also, there's other options too. If you wanted me to show you that, I can, but either way. So why are you showing the motorcycle to that person? Like what do you think they're going to say when they see this for the first time? Like, is that the concept of that second swing? You're changing the way it presents?
Yeah. It's so if the first swing is just, going through the products, pick one, right? The second time, it's when you go back for that second swing, it's more of a, man, I really feel like this would be a value to you. Maybe I didn't fully explain it correctly. Here's some more information about it.
Yep.
Would that help you?
Yeah.
I'm trying to be I'm the professional in the room. And if I can make myself valuable to you in understanding what it is that you're saying yes or no to.
I love that.
Then you're going to choose to buy more from me.
Yeah, you're their advisor. I mean, it's like,
all.
you're not
Yeah.
just the F&I manager, you are their financial advisor.
Right.
And in order to make the best decisions, you need to know their full experience. What do they, if you're a financial advisor, I need to know if your kids are going to college. I need to know what your plans are for retirement. I need to know all these things way into the future to be able to make the best decision. But when I know that, and I know you, and I did the right greet, and I built the right relationship, then it's totally reasonable for me to say, hey, okay, let's be serious. You're going to want this thing.
Right.
Like,
Gap is going to be really important to you. If you have something happen, 6 months from now, somebody steals your bike.
Yeah. You look, these things only
the
balance on
best
two
is
wheels.
having-
You
the
drop
best-
this thing, if it gets totaled, you're out the cash, and
Right.
you're financing a lot of this. No money down. I think this is the right option for you because it's inexpensive.
Even better to have an anecdote. This one guy, it was in here 2 months ago.
Yeah.
It happened.
And he's dead. Just like that. That anecdote right there.
Sign here.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's go on. One of the things I wanted to talk about too was we talked on digital presentation a little bit. I want to talk about the tour.
Okay.
We spent a lot of time with this team yesterday dialing in the tour, and there's a lot of times where my brain works slower than I guess the rest of the group did, because I was like, wait, we have to go back a step. I'm still talking about this step instead. But in that, I mean, it really. And by tour, I mean the dealer tour. It's between F&I 1 and F&I 2.
For F&I, for anybody who doesn't know, F&I 1 is just the first interaction the finance manager has with the customer. Usually it's on
Just
the
like
floor.
an introduction.
It's an intro. It's a customer interview. You hear it called a lot of different things.
Okay. Yep.
I know we always call it F&I.
Oh, yeah,
And a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of people do.
We
but-
use all those damn acronyms and it's confusing.
yeah.
So
But
the
it's
first time the F&I manager meets the customer.
and it should be done on the floor. It's before we really have all the paperwork ready. We're not selling anything. We're just making a friend.
Yep.
And I love your analogy to the advisor is I'm finding out how you're going to ride the bike, where you're going to go, and if you're married, not married, kids, are you using it to get away from them or to spend time with them, or what is that, right? So that I can make your experience better by having these products, right?
Yeah.
So when the finance major's done with that, then we would turn the customer over to parts and service and all of that. So that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, and so one of our big things, and we're trying to, in this store, in the lab here, we're trying to do things, right or wrong, that are different than what we're doing now. So there are some things that I train as garage composites, you train as garage composites, that I'm going to say that does sound like the current best process. And it might be the best process forever, but we're going to do it different. And we're just going to try it different for a little bit and see what
magic
happens.
happens.
Yeah, and so we're like, why not give it a shot? You had mentioned that book, what was it, Blue Water?
Oh, Blue Water Strategies.
Blue Water Strategies, where if you're
Blue Ocean Strategy. Blue Ocean Strategy.
yeah. So I think the idea that like the red water is where everybody, like all the animals or all the sharks are feeding on. They're all feeding off the same stuff, same information. You can get much bigger fish, much better opportunity if we go outside of where everybody else
Blue
is.
Ocean Strategy.
Yeah,
Is that it?
There you go.
Pull it up, Jamie.
Got it.
Yeah, great book. I mean, just conceptually, like it really makes you think, what is the Blue Ocean strategy for our business?
Yeah.
Right? Where is
Yeah.
nobody else playing?
Yeah, exactly.
And whether it's technology or people or process that we need to change or tools.
So yeah, one of those things, and tools are a big one. And I don't want to just say the solution is technology, because I don't think it is just technology. I think the
Because you
solution
can't just plop down the technology. There has to be behavior
has
change.
to be behavior. And when the technology's there, really doesn't it mean that we can start to change what people do and how they operate and what the roles are and what the job descriptions are? And so yesterday we were having exactly that conversation and saying, okay, what are the problems right now with the tour? And Danny was the parts manager here at one point. I was the service manager. I still am. We are both actually the interim parts managers and service managers right now again. But being down there, working the floor, it's a busy Saturday, and we've got a ton of customers we're dealing with in fixed operations. And then we get a customer dropped on our plate from the sales department and goes, hey, this guy's just, he's buying a Tiger 1200. This is Danny. Bye. And then they leave. And now Danny's got to drop everything that he's doing to go, oh, so tell me about yourself. What you going to do? Like that is disruptive. Yeah. And it's not just that it's disruptive and difficult for the parts manager or the sale or the service advisor who has to deal with that. Like it makes sense that we're doing this, but it doesn't feel good for the customer. Like, what was your analogy yesterday? Daycare?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like dropping my off at daycare. Like they know me. They're comfortable with me.
Mm-hmm.
And just drop them off in a place. It's like, what is this? That was abrupt,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
your kid's like, no, no, and
Yeah,
they're crying and
yeah.
hugging your leg. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And so the customer has spent hours with this salesperson.
Yeah.
And
Now you're starting that over.
I'm starting it over, but not just starting it over. I'm starting over with a person who is clearly really busy right now.
Clearly
And that
really
customer
busy
can see and feel that and be like, oh, this feels weird.
not gonna have the hours or possibly weeks they've already had building that relationship.
Yeah.
It's build a relationship, get to know this person, and sell them all of this stuff in 10 minutes, 20 minutes that you don't have.
So we're not saying, well, then just the salesperson has to take back over. We're not saying that the service
Don't do the tour.
Yeah, don't do the tour.
No,
The
we're
tour's
not
got to
saying
happen.
that.
We're not saying don't give the F&I manager the time between F&I 1 and F&I 2 to prepare all the paperwork. What we're saying is, okay, what if, and this is a crazy idea, maybe it doesn't work, but
Safe space.
it's a safe space. What if we have a role that is just the internal service advisor? What if we have this role that is more than just an apparel person or more than just an accessory person? What if it's this like combination of what we're going to call the outfitter, and the outfitter role will essentially be the person that it's the advisor for the sales department. It's the person that when you buy a motorcycle, we're going to stage that motorcycle for you. That person is going to go greet you. They're going to be capable of adjusting your mirrors to be right, adjusting your bars to be at the right height, making sure your phone connects Bluetooth to it. Let me get you the phone mount so it'll mount right next to it. We'll put that on right, like maybe not install. We'll see what that looks like. But they're also going to pull the apparel. They're going to build the internal repair order to do the installation of that stuff. Instead of it being, I'm really busy, but let me rush through getting you prices. I got to just check off on the tour list that we did it, and I'm going to hand it over to you. Like,
that's the other thing that I wanted to say about the tour, especially whenever I lived it and did it, and I told people to do it, and I was one of the people on the stop. Like, I mean, we can just be honest. It's obvious to the customer. It's blatantly clear. I am being brought here for this person just to tell me something. I'm not being brought here to make a friend or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it takes a very special person that's selling to flip that, to make it about being a friend and not just that awkward majority of the time. So, I mean, we don't have a solution for it right now.
No,
but I'm excited to
we're going to try a new
try
thing.
to find solutions.
We're going to try, and that role sounds like a unicorn. It does.
Well, and there are a couple dealerships that have like a concierge.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Which is kind of what you're describing.
Yeah.
You know, and it does work well. But again, it's one of those like the best ideas come from thinking outside the box. The best ideas come from going, no, but if we try this.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's give it a shot. Let's see if it
And-
works. And if it works, we
Yeah.
keep doing it. If not, we tweak it or we say that failed.
And it does come down to the right person,
Yeah.
the right process, you
Yep.
know, and getting that dialed in. So I'm excited to see what you guys come up with.
Yeah.
there,
And that's F&I adjacent for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
And so much of our conversation yesterday was focused on F&I, but like, how do you set F&I up properly? How do you prepare them properly? How do you make sure we're talking about priority maintenance and tire and wheel and extended service contract across the entire stores that's happening? Can we introduce it earlier in the process so that they know what the terms mean when we bring it up in the tour, so that when we show it later, it's like, oh, that does make sense. I heard it multiple times. So I think the point here is like, I don't think what we're talking about is something that I would expect any dealer to watch this and go, we're hiring that person and doing it right now. What I'm hoping is that this starts to inspire dealers to get their team together and say, okay, what are we doing? Not just like what are the tasks you accomplish throughout the day, but like, what's the objective of the role? What do we want the customer to experience and feel? And I mean, you know, just a little shameless plug for you. I mean, yesterday you coming in, like, and having that conversation, explaining why the psychology is important and making sure that's sunk in for everybody. And then saying, okay, how can we do it that way? And then we have this creative conversation where everybody's bought in. I think that was so valuable to this store. And shit, I'm a trainer too, and I couldn't have delivered it in that same way. It's just really cool how that outside perspective that verifies and validates the feelings that we had was just the spark that we needed to move it forward.
I hope that this inspires operators, managers do that with their people.
Yeah.
You know, like
Have a creative brainstorming
having one
session.
of us, you know, hired to facilitate it, great, but you don't need to be an expert to just get your team to start talking about how they think things can be improved.
Yeah. Read, Blue Ocean Strategy. Read, I'm going to plug this book all the time. I feel like I'm sponsored by it. Unreasonable Hospitality. I asked 3 different people at the restaurant last night if they're reading Unreasonable Hospitality, and they all are. So it's a restaurant book based on really pushing the norms and becoming the best restaurants in the world based on experience.
And the similarities to motors.
It does.
The similarities to a power sports dealership.
Dude, we are
so many similarities.
We are a hospitality business.
Exactly.
Like that's what we are. And we happen to sell motorcycles doing it.
Yep.
So, all right, guys, this was an awesome time. Steve, thanks for coming out. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have you back on the pod at some point. Maybe we'll do a video one so we can give you an update, but you'll come back out and hang out with us as well.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Oh, great.
Just assuming
absolutely.
that you have to.
It's New Orleans.
Exactly. That's a great excuse. Anybody who wants to come down and hang out, get put up, have a fancy dinner, and then talk on a podcast. We love doing this. Yep. So, yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, man. And thank you guys for watching.